She stood right there, hands on hips, sunglasses reflecting the lake like she owned the whole neighborhood. "Open the gate," she barked, waving a clipboard like it was a royal decree. "My guests are coming through." I looked at her, calm but already tired. "Karen, this is private property. That gate leads straight to my dock," she smirked. "Oh, please. This is community land now. Choi rules. Funny thing was, I built that dock myself, years before the HOA even existed. My late wife and I had saved every dime to buy this spot, our peace, our lake, our dream. And now this woman wanted to turn it into her party zone. Not happening, I said. That's when her voice went up an octave. "You'll regret this," she shouted, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling the police!" She did, right there, on me. While she talked, pacing like she was directing an army, I noticed her scribbling something on paper. Then she marched to my front door and slapped a notice on it. Big red letters. HOA violation. Immediate eviction notice. She looked right at me and said, "You can't live here anymore." I almost laughed. "Karen, you don't have that power." "Oh, I do," she snapped. "You'll see." The sound of her heels faded down my driveway, but my chest burned. I knew she'd crossed a line this time. What she didn't know was she just picked a fight with the wrong man. Because I wasn't just some quiet lake guy, I was the former county deputy who still had friends on the inside. And I had cameras. Everywhere. Karen lost it when I refused to open my lakefront gate. But she didn't know I was recording every second. The next thing I knew, 2 men in dark uniforms pulled up in a black SUV. They walked straight to the gate, badges glinting in the sunlight. Karen waved them over like she'd summoned angels. "See, they're here to enforce the rules," she shouted. I stepped forward, my voice calm but firm. "Gentlemen, may I see your credentials?" They froze for a second, then one of them snapped. "We're with the HOA enforcement unit. We're just here to—" I held up my hand. "No, you're not." Karen's jaw dropped. What do you mean?" "Those aren't real cops," I said. "And neither are you." Her face went red, and suddenly I could hear the faint click of my security cameras capturing every second. I motioned to them. Smile, every fake badge, every fake step. "You're on record." The men looked nervous. Karen stepped in front of them like a shield. You can't do this. You have to let us through." I leaned closer. "Actually, Karen, I own this land. The HOA doesn't control my driveway, my dock, or my property, and you just tried to trespass with fake law enforcement." Her eyes darted around. She realized everyone watching her, the neighbors peeking from windows, could see she was losing control. I saw her hand tremble with her phone. She might try to call real cops next. But I had another surprise. A friend from the sheriff's department happened to be passing by, saw the commotion, and recognized me. Within minutes, a real patrol car rolled onto my property. Karen froze. The color drained from her face. "You called the cops on me?" I asked casually, pointing at her phone. I just, she stammered, clearly unprepared for a real confrontation. I smiled, because the twist was deliciously simple. She thought she had power over everyone, but she hadn't accounted for me and my backup. Karen tried to bring fake cops to my lakefront home. She didn't expect real law enforcement to show up. Karen's smug confidence evaporated like mist over the lake. She stepped back, muttering under her breath, frantically swiping at her phone like it held a secret spell to undo everything. I don't understand," she whispered, her voice shaking. "They were supposed to follow me." I shook my head slowly. "Karen, you can't just hire pretend cops to enforce your rules." She spun toward me, eyes wild. "This isn't over. You'll see, I have the HOA board on my side." That's when her next mistake hit me. While she was distracted, I glanced at her clipboard. Among the fake violation notices and her scribbles, I saw something odd. A document supposedly signed by the HOA president. But the signature was sloppy, almost childish. My gut told me exactly what it was, forged. I smirked. "Karen, did you really think I wouldn't check the documents?" Her face paled. It's just a misunderstanding." At that moment, my friend from the sheriff's department approached, looking over the fake notices. "You realize these are completely fraudulent, right?" he asked. Karen stammered, muttering excuses. Every word sounded more desperate than the last. Then came the part that really shocked her, my little twist. I pressed a button on my phone, and the lakefront cameras began to stream footage live onto a projector set up just inside my home, visible from the driveway. Every step she'd taken, every word she'd shouted, was displayed for all the neighbors peeking over fences. The crowd outside started murmuring. Karen's voice hit a frantic pitch. "Stop that. That's private." I leaned back calm as ever. "Funny. It's your actions, not mine, that you should worry about. This is public evidence of trespassing, impersonation, and harassment." Her hands trembled as she realized the web she had spun around herself was collapsing. The neighbors whispered, phones out, recording, sharing. Karen had no idea the chaos she'd invited into her own life. Karen's fake HOA rules. Collapsed to live on my lakefront cameras. Neighbors watched every humiliating second. Karen's panic turned into full-blown rage. She stormed toward the gate, fists clenched, her phone now pressed to her ear like she was calling in an army. You'll regret this," she screamed. I stepped forward, blocking her path, my calm voice cutting through her fury. "Karen, this is your last warning. Step back or things get worse for you," she sneered. "Worse? You have no idea who you're dealing with. The HOA can—" A sharp honk from my driveway made her freeze. A flatbed tow truck rolled up, the driver waving. "We got a call to tow the vehicle on this property," he said, scanning a note Karen had frantically handed over. Her jaw dropped. "No, that's a mistake. Stop." I walked up to her, keeping my tone steady. "Karen, remember those fake cops you brought? This is what happens when people mess with the wrong homeowner. And yes, I called my friend at the tow service, legally, of course." Her face turned ashen as the realization hit. Not only was she failing in front of the neighbors, but her fake authority was being publicly shredded. The crowd outside murmured, phones up, capturing every second. And just when she thought she could escape humiliation, the sheriff's deputy from earlier walked over, badge in hand. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to step aside. You're being cited for trespassing and impersonating law enforcement." Karen's eyes widened, the mask of entitlement slipping completely. "You can't. I have rights." I smiled quietly, shaking my head. "Funny. The only rights you respected today were the ones you pretended to have." Her phone slipped from her trembling hand, and I noticed something else. She had accidentally shared a live feed of herself on a social HOA forum, her tantrum being broadcast to every member. Her power trip had become a public spectacle. By the time real law enforcement escorted her off the property, the neighbors were clapping and whispering. Karen's empire of intimidation had crumbled in front of everyone. Karen lost it when her fake authority got towed, and the whole neighborhood saw it live. By now, Karen was visibly shaken, muttering under her breath while being guided toward the patrol car. But just when I thought it was over, she pulled out one last card. A complaint filed with the HOA board claiming I had harassed her and violated community protocol. I raised an eyebrow, glancing at the neighbors gathering around. "You really thought one last false claim would save you?" She sputtered, trying to argue. But my friend from the sheriff's department had already handed me a printed copy of the HOA bylaws. I pointed to the fine print, clear as day. Private driveways and lake access are exempt from community events. Karen's eyes widened as the room and cameras caught every word. Her last-ditch complaint was meaningless. Then came the twist that really sealed her fate. One of the neighbors stepped forward holding a USB stick. "We recorded every HOA interaction she ever had with our community," he said, "including when she forged signatures to try to get this property sold." Karen's mouth opened, closed, and opened again. That's not... You can't..." I leaned in, calm but lethal. "Karen, you tried to manipulate fake cops, public records, neighbors, and even our property laws. But we kept every step on camera. Every single one." The crowd outside cheered quietly, the atmosphere charged with relief and satisfaction. Karen looked around, realizing that not a single person was on her side. Her power had evaporated, replaced with embarrassment and legal peril. Even worse for her, the HOA president called moments later, furious. "Karen, we had no part in this. You forged signatures and overstepped every boundary. You're suspended from the board immediately." Karen froze, the weight of her mistakes finally sinking in. My camera had captured every second. The neighbors had seen everything. Her fake authority was officially exposed, and there was no coming back. Karen tried one last trick, but every move she made was recorded and exposed to the entire neighborhood. Karen's fury reached a new level the next morning. She showed up at my gate, clipboard in hand, trying to intimidate me with a stack of legal papers. "This isn't over. You'll regret this." I calmly motioned to my driveway cameras. Karen, every word, every step, every action. You've already been documented. You don't get to rewrite history, she sneered, flipping through the papers. I've filed complaints, citations. You'll see in court. Funny thing was, I had anticipated this. I already had copies of every HOA notice she ever issued, every phone call she made, and yes, the footage of her fake cops, her tantrums, and the live-streamed meltdown. I even had a signed affidavit from the tow truck driver and the sheriff's deputy who witnessed everything. The next twist came when a neighbor, who worked in legal services, showed up with a printed timeline of Karen's abuses, not just to me but to other residents. Karen, it seems you've been building a reputation, they said quietly. The board has been compiling evidence, and it doesn't look good for you. Karen froze, the papers shaking in her hands. Her fake authority, her entitlement, and her lies had all been exposed. Her face went pale as she realized the HOA board itself would now take action against her, potentially removing her permanently from any position of power. Just as she tried to mutter a threat, I spoke into the cameras, which were streaming live to the neighborhood forum. This isn't personal, Karen. It's about accountability. And we're done being silent. The murmurs from neighbors turned into applause. Every phone recording, every camera angle, every witness added weight. Karen's empire of intimidation wasn't just crumbling. It was collapsing in front of the entire community. Karen thought court could save her, but every move she made was already on record, and the whole neighborhood watched. Karen sat in her car, gripping the steering wheel, her face a mix of fury and disbelief. Word had spread fast. Neighbors were calling, posting, and sharing every clip of her meltdown. Her phone buzzed nonstop with messages from the HOA, the sheriff's office, and even the local news. I stepped onto my dock, watching the sunrise reflect off the lake. Calm. My family behind me. Safe. My cameras had captured everything. My friends in law enforcement had backed me up, and the evidence was irrefutable. Later that afternoon, real HOA officials arrived, papers in hand, badges visible, ready to enforce the rules legally. Karen's hands shook as they read her suspension notice aloud. Every authority she'd faked was now powerless against the law. As they escorted her off the property for formal questioning, she tried one last time to shout threats. "You'll pay for this," she screamed, but no one listened. The neighbors, phones still recording, only shook their heads. Her reputation was in ruins, and the community had seen the full story unfold. I showed the deputy the footage of her fake cops and forged notices. He shook his head, impressed. "You handled this perfectly. Everything's documented. No one could challenge it, and the best part? The lakefront was ours again. Peaceful, private, untouchable. My kids ran down to the water laughing, while my wife and I exchanged a quiet smile. Freedom. Justice. Land we fought to protect. Karen's reign of chaos was over, legally and publicly. Karen finally faced real consequences, and the whole neighborhood watched justice happen. The lake was calm, the sun dipping low, painting gold across the water. I stood at the dock watching my kids skip stones while my wife held their hands, safe and smiling. It was quiet, peaceful, the kind of quiet Karen had tried to steal. The HOA board had officially removed her from any position of authority. Her fake notices were voided, and law enforcement had filed reports for her impersonation and trespassing. Every neighbor who had watched the chaos unfold now understood the truth. Entitlement and lies crumble when confronted with evidence. Courage and the law. I thought about the fight we'd faced, how quickly chaos had arrived, how easily someone could abuse fake power, and yet how justice had prevailed when the community stood together. My family had protected our home, and I'd learned something too. Standing firm, even when provoked, could turn fear and intimidation into strength. Karen would never darken this lakefront again. And every time I looked at my dock, my gate, the water shimmering under the sunset, I felt a deep sense of pride, not just for what we owned, but for what we had protected: our home, our family, our freedom. I didn't fight for this country to let a fake HOA Karen take my lakefront home. Justice was served, and my family was safe. The story ended with relief, satisfaction, and a reminder that standing up for what's right and documenting it can turn even the boldest entitlement into a public downfall.